States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Board of Public Affairs meeting for July 16th, 2019. Before we start, I'd like to thank Mr. Sproul for running the meeting in absence last week. I'm sure you did a great job. You did. First on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the July 2nd, 2019 regular meeting. Board, you have the minutes in front of you. Are any additions or corrections? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Seeing none, I'll do.
Second.
Dick?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Derek?
Yes.
Next is a hearing of public concerns. Seeing none. Clerk Treasurer's report.
The board's been presented with the clerk treasurer's report for the month ending June 30th, 2019.
I'd like to make a motion, we approve the clerk treasurer's report.
I'll second.
Karen?
Yes.
Derek?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Next is a request to award the Industrial Drive Substation Project Transformer bid. Lori, would you read the number, please?
Resolution number 29, 2019, authorizing the Director of Utilities to execute an agreement for Industrial Drive Substation Project Power Transformer.
Thank you. The board may recall at the last meeting, we awarded all of the major equipment bids with the exception of the power transformer. We were still going through and reviewing these bids. What ultimately happened here, you may recall, and it's in the packet again here, I believe, we had the initial cost, but then they also take a look at the operating cost, the losses that occur with these various transformers over a 30-year period. And based on that evaluation, Niagara, the one before you today, is the lowest cost option. In the life cycle cost of it is third. However, the first two bidders, the two lowest bidders, took exception to a number of the terms and conditions of our contract. We were not able to get those worked out with them, and so Niagara appears to be the lowest and or best qualified bidder for the project.
Any questions?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like the total operating cost over 30 years amounts to about $2,000 per year.
And because of the difference in the initial cost, it's for about 20 years, I think, before you cross that threshold, and it ends up being more because of the lower initial cost.
Right.
Any other questions?
This will be May 2020.
Correct. We didn't have any of the bidders that could meet the timeline that we were hoping for, with the exception of one, but they were a much higher cost arrangement. So looking at the power control center that you awarded the bid for last meeting, it's going to be arriving in that same time frame. So we really can't get this thing finished in the timeline that we were hoping to anyway. So we took a look at that, conferred with the consulting engineers, and said at this point, this makes the most sense for us because we're going to be delayed anyway with the power control center.
And this should take care of all the big items.
That's correct. And we are trying to finalize the advertisement for the construction bids. We would hope to have that wrapped up here in the next week or two, I think, and get that on the street as well.
Well, I'd like to make a bid, we accept award of bid to Niagara Transformer.
No second.
Karen?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Derek?
Yes.
Lori, what number was that? I'm sorry, I missed it.
29.
Thank you.
Next is a discussion on the streetlight petition process.
Yes, we've included some materials in your packet. We've received different times over about the last 6 months some inquiries about additional streetlight installations. I looked to see what the process was for approval of those. We currently don't have any kind of a process for it that's formalized. And of course, streetlights, if it's within the city limits, are provided as a free service to the community. And the board has considered things like the Bard Centennial Fountain that we were talking about just the last meeting, those kinds of additions to the free service account, or the soccer field lights a year ago, those kinds of things. So it makes some sense to me that there should be a board involvement in that process. We weren't sure what your feelings were about it, kind of drafted out a proposed petition that people could fill out. And if everything checks out, then eventually it would come to you for your consideration. We tried to apply national roadway lighting standards when we're evaluating all of these. That way it's being evaluated the same here as it might in other parts of the country. And sometimes there may be other criteria that should be considered. So for example, if it's an area where there's a lot of traffic accidents that are occurring, part of the process here is that we would contact Chief Willis of the Bryan Police Department and ask for their input. There may be a public safety reason other than what might be apparent to us by the roadway lighting standards. Maybe it's a hill or something like that that creates an area where visibility is limited, that we may want to consider those types of issues as well in placement of a street light, as well as the city engineer to make sure that placing one at the location that's requested doesn't create any other problems with right-of-way management. So I think it's a pretty good process. We took a look at a number of different processes that were available out there with other communities and sort of put it together based on that. So we're, I guess, interested in seeing what you thought about it.
Well, it looks
I
like,
don't know that it needs to be formally approved by the board. You certainly can if you like. If you're okay with it, then this is what we'll use going forward.
it looks like you did your homework, and as I read through it, it was easy to follow, and looks like you follow those guidelines and then leave it up to the Board of Public Affairs in the end to approve. I think that's a good idea.
I agree.
And these would be for projects that are not part of the stuff that we're doing, because you would be approving that, of course, as part of the budget. And so it would still go through the board in those cases. This would be for outside entity initiated type of streetlights.
I like that there's a formal request process, even with the abutting property owners' information. So it's
Yeah.
not just one person involved in the discussion or the request.
I know, because some people don't want streetlights. Yeah, they
Right,
don't.
where you put it then shines in the
Mhm.
neighbor's
Yeah,
bedroom
exactly.
window, and that it's
Yeah,
a problem. So
exactly.
we want to be sensitive to those issues as well.
It's a good idea.
Looks like a good idea to me. We need to have some kind of, I mean, we don't want to just install streetlights randomly. You want to make sure that they're an improvement. Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
And in cases outside of the city limits, where we've got them, like at Lakeland Woods and Quarry Estates, we've entered into agreements with an entity, whether that's Center Township or the Homeowners Association in the case of Lakeland Woods, to supply those in those locations. So those, of course, would still come to you as authorization for those agreements also.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, do we need an approval? Or?
Yeah, do you need a motion to approve that?
If you want to, that's fine.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Jim?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Derek?
Yes.
Next on the agenda is to effect semi-monthly disbursements. Can I have a motion to pay the bills, please?
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Derek?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
Next is comments from BPA and staff. Derek?
Well, we don't have anything tonight.
Okay. Richard?
We doing any peak shaving this week? Big time.
Yeah, we anticipate that we will be operating and asking for customer voluntary conservation efforts Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and based on the current forecast, Monday as well of next week. So,
It's coming.
well, yeah, and,
Hot week.
Yeah.
we actually ran today
Yeah,
as well.
that's what I thought.
Yeah. But it's supposed to get even hotter.
Yeah, especially by the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Karen?
Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay. Karen?
I have nothing. Chad? Thank you.
Tom?
Not tonight, I guess.
Really? Yeah. Okay. Kevin? Game on?
I have nothing else unless you have some questions.
Mayor?
No, sir.
No?
Rhonda?
No, sir.
Lori?
No, sir.
Everybody's quiet.
There's somebody out there.
Anybody? City Council? That's you, sir.
Don't look at Vicky, she won't say no.
Did you have something you wanted to add, Vicki? Okay. Anybody else? Max?
Thanks for keeping it quick.
Okay. The only thing I have is a resolution expressing gratitude to the city of Bryan for their assistance through the American Municipal Power Ohio Mutual Aid Program and declaring an emergency, whereas the city of Salina received extensive electric distribution loss as a result of an EF3 tornado on Monday, May 27, 2019, and whereas as a member of the American Municipal Power of Ohio Mutual Aid Program, the city of Bryan willingly assisted the city of Salina personnel in restoring power and service expeditiously, and whereas the city of Salina greatly appreciates the mutual aid provided by fellow members of the AMP Ohio Mutual Aid Program, now therefore be it resolved by the council of the city of Salina, county of Mercer, and state of Ohio, that through this resolution, the city expresses its appreciation to the city of Bryan for providing mutual aid to our community following the EF3 tornado on Monday, May 27, 2019. That the city of Salina particularly commends the efforts of the city of Bryan electric crews who were of critical assistance in restoring power to the customers of Salina Municipal Electric Utilities, and that the clerk of council is hereby directed to forward a copy of this resolution to the city of Bryan. That council declares this to be an emergency measure immediately necessary for the preservation of the public health, safety, and welfare. Now therefore that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced from and after its passage and approval by the mayor at the earliest period allowed by law. It was passed on the 10th day of June and signed by Jason King, President of Council, Joan Worcester, Clerk of Council, and Jeffrey Hazel, the mayor of Salina. We have a great bunch of guys.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
We help.
And that's all I have. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So, moved.
Second.
Dick?
yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Derek?
Yes.
Wait, my turn.